Before we begin, I need to ask you something from the heart. Are you subscribed to Cold Case Hour? If not, please subscribe right now. Not just for me, but for the children. When you subscribe, you're making sure these innocent lives are never forgotten. You're saying their stories matter. You're standing up for the babies who couldn't stand up for themselves. Every subscriber helps us reach more people, spread awareness, and honor these precious souls who deserved so much better. These children need us to remember them. They need you. Hit that subscribe button right now. Be their voice. Make sure they're never forgotten. Now, let's honor their memories. Case 1. Amber Pasztor, September 26, 2016, Elkhart County. On the morning of September 26, 2016, the state of Indiana issued an Amber Alert. 2 children had been taken from their grandparents' home near Fort Wayne. 7-year-old Liliana Hernandez. 6-year-old Renee Pasztor. Their mother, Amber Pasztor, had broken through the front door of her parents' home and abducted them both. What happened next made national headlines and left an entire community devastated. Pasztor had a long and troubled history. She was diagnosed with bipolar disorder when she was 16 years old. Over the years, she tested positive for methamphetamine, cocaine, and marijuana on multiple occasions. She had been investigated repeatedly by Child Protective Services. At one point, she threatened her own mother with a knife in front of her children. She was incarcerated in 2015, and during that time, Liliana and Renee were removed from her care entirely and placed with their custodial grandparents. For a while, things started to look better for the children. Living with their grandparents, the kids began to thrive. Reports from CPS noted that the children were evolving from aggressive and unsettled behavior into well-rounded, happier kids. Liliana, the older of the two, even asked CPS directly not to be sent back to live with her mother. She was 7 years old. She knew enough to ask for that. But Pasztor was watching. In the week leading up to that September day, investigators later learned she had been lurking in a field near her parents' home, watching her children from a distance. She was dodging drug tests. And according to one family member, she had been plotting the murders of her own children for months. She even asked a family member to kill both her and the children before the kidnapping took place. On September 26th, Pasztor broke into her parents' home and took Liliana and Renee. An Amber Alert went out at approximately 12:30 in the afternoon. But by the time law enforcement began searching, it was already too late. Hours after the abduction, at 5:25 in the evening, Pasztor flagged down an Elkhart police officer on the street. She did not try to run. She did not try to hide. She drove up to Corporal Norm Friend and told him there were 2 deceased people in the back seat of her car. The officer approached the vehicle, a stolen car belonging to a neighbor named Frank McClure, who Pasztor had shot and killed earlier that same day. Inside the back seat, officers found the bodies of Liliana and Renee. Investigators reported that the children were clearly lifeless. Their skin was gray. Pasztor told police she had smothered both children with her hand. She demonstrated to detectives exactly how she did it, motioning her hands over her own face. She said she did it to keep them safe and to usher them on to heaven. She told officers she believed a drug cartel was after her children, that they were going to rape and chop them up. She claimed she gave the children a choice between being chopped up or being suffocated, and then she killed them, one at a time. She was evaluated 3 times for mental competency before she entered a guilty plea. In June of 2017, Amber Pasztor stood before an Elkhart County judge and pleaded guilty but mentally ill to 2 counts of murder. Judge Michael Cristofino sentenced her to 65 years per count, served consecutively, a total of 130 years in prison. The judge told Pasztor she had breached the love and trust of her children and that the way she killed them, by suffocation, was particularly disturbing. Her attorney, Peter Soldado, said during sentencing that this was one of the rare occasions where he was truly at a loss for words. He admitted his client had very few redeeming qualities. The prosecutor, Vicky Becker, agreed completely. She noted that the children had finally been taken away from Pasztor, placed somewhere they could thrive, and then this happened. Pasztor was also later charged in Allen County for the murder of her former neighbor, Frank McClure. She will never see the outside of a prison again. Liliana and Renee Pasztor never got the chance to grow up. They never got the chance to become the well-adjusted, happy children they were becoming in their grandparents' care. Their mother took that from them in the most permanent way possible. If this case has moved you, If you feel the weight of what just happened, leave a comment below. Tell us you are watching. Tell us you are listening. Because these children deserve to be remembered. Like and subscribe if you are watching for Liliana and Renee. Case 2. Toni McClure. April 9th, 2024, Marion County. 5-year-old Kinsley Welty was known for her smile. The few people who got to see it said it was rare, but when it came, it was unforgettable. Kinsley had a smile that could light up a room. By the time she died, she weighed less than she had when she was 2.5 years old. On April 9th, 2024, just after 5:15 in the afternoon, Indianapolis Metropolitan Police responded to a mobile home park on Denver Drive on the southwest side of the city. The call was simple, an unresponsive child. When officers arrived, they found 5-year-old Kinsley Welty. She was malnourished to the point where her condition was immediately visible to anyone who walked into that room. She was covered in bite marks. Fecal matter was caked in her hair and on her feet. Lice were crawling across her face and the top of her head. She was rushed to Riley Hospital for Children, where she was pronounced dead from severe malnutrition. Her mother, 29-year-old Toni McClure, was arrested that same day. What investigators uncovered inside that mobile home was beyond what most of the officers had ever seen in their careers. There was a small bedroom closet, blocked off by a dresser from the outside. The closet was coated in fecal matter. It smelled like urine and waste. And according to McClure's own confession and the testimony of others in the home, Kinsley had been kept inside that closet for up to 20 hours a day. For months. A sibling of Kinsley described the closet as a cage. McClure admitted to police that she had been feeding her daughter only one small meal a day. She admitted she knew her daughter needed help. She admitted she feared her actions would eventually lead to the child's death. And she said the reason she did nothing was that she was afraid of losing her other children if she drew attention to herself. But the truth was darker than fear. When investigators pressed her, McClure allegedly admitted she knew she was treating her daughter wrong, and that she simply did not care. She expressed a desire for Kinsley to be out of her life. She told police that Kinsley frequently said she was hungry. And McClure knew. She knew every single time. McClure's boyfriend, Ryan Smith, admitted that Kinsley had been kept in the closet since Thanksgiving, roughly 5 months. He said he was concerned the girl was losing weight, but did not call for help because he did not want to get McClure in trouble. McClure's own mother, Tammy Halsey, was also arrested. Court documents alleged that Halsey knew about the closet, knew about the abuse, and never reported it. Halsey admitted to duct taping her own granddaughter to a bed at night to keep the starving child from foraging for food in the dark. The day before Kinsley died, April 8th, was the day of the Great North American Solar Eclipse. While the rest of central Indiana turned its eyes to the sky, Kinsley Welty was standing in a corner of the house, her face pressed against a wall. She was being punished for misbehaving. She never got to see the eclipse. She died the next day. This was not the first time the system had failed Kinsley. McClure had a prior neglect conviction from December of 2018 in Morgan County, when Kinsley was just 3 weeks old and was found suffering from failure to thrive. McClure served only 21 days in jail. She received probation. She was ordered to take parenting classes. DCS had removed Kinsley from the home multiple times. Each time, the policy of reunification brought her back to the woman who would eventually starve her to death. DCS received at least 5 separate reports of abuse and neglect between November of 2023 and January of 2024 alone. Every single one of those reports was closed without any caseworker seeing Kinsley face to face. Marion County Prosecutor Ryan Mears filed for life without parole. He called what happened to Kinsley torture. McClure is charged with 2 counts of murder, criminal confinement, and battery on a person under 14. Kinsley Welty spent most of her short life locked in a closet, hungry, alone, and suffering. She deserved so much more than the world gave her. Like and subscribe if you're watching this for Kinsley. She deserved better. Every single child deserved better. Case 3, Crystal Lynn Cox, July 5, 2021, Tippecanoe County. 3-year-old Zeus Cox was autistic. He was nonverbal. He could not speak. He could not cry out loud enough for anyone outside the home to hear him when he was in pain. And the adults in his life knew this. On July 5, 2021, at approximately 8:48 in the morning, Lafayette police responded to a residence on Howell Street on a report of a child who was not breathing. An EMT arrived and found Zeus Cox dead on a bedroom floor. He had bruises across his chest, across his stomach, and all over his body. His mother, Crystal Lynn Cox, and her boyfriend, Jermaine Garnes, were both interviewed that morning. Cox initially told police that Zeus had fallen on concrete. She then changed her story and said he had run into a table. Neither story was true. The autopsy told the real story. Zeus Cox had died from multiple blunt force trauma injuries to his abdomen. The force was so severe that his intestines ruptured in 4 separate places. His kidneys were lacerated. His ribs were fractured. There was internal bleeding throughout his body. The forensic pathologist determined that these injuries represented what he called non-accidental trauma. The vomiting and fever Zeus experienced the night before his death were not from an illness. They were the direct result of the damage being done to his organs. The night before Zeus died, he was throwing up and told the adults in the home that his stomach hurt. Cox and Garnes gave him Pedialyte and let him sleep in their bed. By morning, he was gone. Investigators found a text message on Cox's phone dated June 29th, 6 days before Zeus died. In it, Cox wrote to Garnes that they needed to buy Zeus a swim shirt so that no one could see the bruises on his body. She knew. She knew what was happening to her son, and she was helping to hide it. Garnes' own 9-year-old son, who lived in the home, told investigators in a forensic interview that he witnessed his father punch Zeus in the chest on July 4th. He said it happened in the living room. Crystal Cox was standing right there when it happened. The boy also told police that Cox herself would hit Zeus, usually with a belt, on other occasions. A man described as Garnes' mentor told police that after Zeus died, Garnes admitted to beating the child. He made a comment to the effect that he thought he did kill the boy. Cox herself told this same man that she believed Garnes had killed her son. Cox had a prior conviction for neglect of a dependent from a 2013 case in Clinton County. Garnes had a prior conviction for domestic battery. In May of 2022, after a 4-day jury trial, Crystal Lynn Cox was found guilty on all counts: murder, neglect of a dependent resulting in death, aggravated battery, and battery on a person under 14 resulting in death. The jury deliberated for only an hour and a half before returning its verdict. She was sentenced to 55 years in prison. She will be 71 years old when her sentence is complete. Jermaine Garnes was later convicted on the same charges and sentenced to 65 years, the maximum. The judge called him the worst of the worst. Deputy Prosecutor Elise Madigan said during sentencing that what happened to Zeus, the abuse he endured at 3 years old, was unfathomable. Zeus Cox could not speak. He could not call out for help. He could not defend himself. And the 2 adults who were supposed to protect him beat him to death and then lied about it. If you are watching this, hit like. Hit subscribe. Leave a comment for Zeus. This little boy deserved someone to fight for him. Case 4, Michelle Gauvin, March 16, 2005, Tippecanoe County. 4-year-old Ayanna Gauvin was described by her biological mother as very spunky, very spirited, and very smart. Her name meant forever flowering, forever blossoming. She was living with her father, Christian Gauvin, and his wife, Michelle Gauvin, in a home on Hillside Drive in Lafayette. On the morning of March 16, 2005, at approximately 6:18 in the morning, the Tippecanoe County Dispatch received a 911 call. Someone at that address was saying a child was choking and might be dead. Deputy Sheriff Chuck Schumerd was the first officer on the scene. He found Ayanna's body lying on top of a dishwasher in the kitchen. She was cold to the touch. There were red marks and bruises all over her face and her body. What investigators uncovered inside that home over the following days and weeks revealed months of systematic torture. Michelle Gauvin admitted to police that on the night before Ayanna's death, she had tied the child's wrists with a plastic zip tie and placed duct tape over her mouth. She left Ayanna bound like that and went to sleep. Christian Gauvin later that same night beat the child severely while Michelle was out of the house. When Michelle came back, Ayanna was still tied to the chair. Michelle attempted to feed her a blended rice mixture, but the girl was choking and vomiting. Michelle left her bound overnight. The next morning, Ayanna was dead. But the night Ayanna died was not the first night. It was not even close to the first night. Court records revealed that the Gauvins had subjected Ayanna to months of abuse that went far beyond anything that could be called discipline. Michelle admitted to tying Ayanna up, duct taping her mouth shut, spanking her with a broken cutting board, biting her, and forcing her to eat ground-up food. Ayanna was made to sleep in an uninsulated room built off of the garage, completely isolated from the rest of the family. Perhaps the most disturbing detail of all, Michelle and Christian photographed Ayanna in different states of bondage. They forced the child to look at photographs of herself tied up. In one of those photographs, Ayanna is bound to her bed, wearing an overflowing diaper, lying in excrement. In another, she is tied to a play gate and forced to stare at 7 of these photographs of herself. Child Protective Services had received a report about this home in February of 2005, 1 month before Ayanna died. Nothing was done. In June of 2005, while Michelle awaited trial, a corrections officer at the Tippecanoe County Jail went to her cell to investigate a report that she had attempted suicide. During their conversation, Michelle said she was tired of all of it and wanted to tell the truth. She said she killed the child. She said the child had made her angry. And she said the child deserved it. On September 15, 2006, Michelle Gauvin pleaded guilty to murder, criminal confinement, and neglect of a dependent. She avoided the death penalty through that guilty plea. The trial court found 2 aggravating circumstances. Ayanna was under 12 years old, and Michelle had tortured her. Michelle Gauvin was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Christian Gauvin was sentenced to 50 years for his role in his daughter's death. The Indiana Supreme Court later affirmed Michelle's sentence, writing that while parents are expected to curb their children's behavior, no end justifies all means. Parental acts of torture, even for so-called disciplinary or corrective purposes, are not exempt from being treated as aggravating circumstances. Ayanna Gauvin's name meant forever flowering. Her life was cut short before she ever had the chance to bloom. Leave a comment below for Ayanna. Like this video. Subscribe to Cold Case Hour. These children need to be remembered. Case 5, Tricia Cavanaugh, June 9, 2016, Delaware County. Tricia Cavanaugh called herself a supermom. A judge would later tell her, in front of a packed courtroom, that he was not so sure about that. On the morning of June 9, 2016, at approximately 9:17 in the morning, Muncie police were dispatched to a residence on Glenwood Avenue. The call was about an unresponsive child. When officers arrived, they found Cavanaugh kneeling on the floor next to her 4-month-old daughter. The baby was unconscious. Cavanaugh was crying hysterically and trying to perform CPR on the infant. Medics arrived and transported the child to IU Healthball Memorial Hospital. Less than an hour after police responded to that home, the baby was pronounced dead. When officers spoke to Cavanaugh at the scene, they noted she appeared to be intoxicated. Her balance was unsteady. Her speech was slow and slurred. She had poor manual dexterity. Officers also detected the smell of burnt marijuana inside the residence. Cavanaugh told police she had woken up during the night to breastfeed her daughter. She fell asleep afterward. When she woke up that morning, the baby was lying face down next to her in the adult bed. Police obtained a search warrant and had Cavanaugh's blood drawn. The results showed she had hydrocodone and nordiazepam in her system. A search of her home revealed a bottle of gabapentin, 6 bottles of hydrocodone, and 1 bottle of diazepam. Records checks revealed that Cavanaugh had been prescribed hydrocodone and diazepam, but she had used significantly more of the hydrocodone than her prescription recommended. She had not received a prescription for oxycodone in the year leading up to her daughter's death, but evidence suggested she had been using it. The autopsy was unable to determine the exact cause of death. However, the doctor who performed it indicated that unsafe sleeping conditions were a contributing factor in the infant's death. This was not the first time anyone had warned Cavanaugh. In January of 2015, Child Services had investigated her after she tested positive for drugs during a previous investigation. During that investigation, Cavanaugh told officials she was really bad about co-sleeping with her children. She said she understood why it was risky. She was warned about the dangers. Explicitly. Repeatedly. A drug screening during that earlier DCS investigation revealed she had Xanax, marijuana, and cocaine in her system. Medical records from the hospital also revealed something else. When Cavanaugh's daughter was born, the baby tested positive for opiates. The infant was placed in the NICU for neonatal drug withdrawal. This mother had been using drugs while pregnant, and her baby was born dependent on those substances. And then 8 years later, that same mother took drugs, fell asleep next to that baby in an adult bed, and the baby suffocated. Cavanaugh was arrested in July of 2017 in connection with the death. She did not plead guilty until September of 2024, 8 years after her daughter died. At her sentencing hearing, she described herself as a supermom. Delaware County Judge Douglas Mulhor looked at her and said, "I am not so sure about that." She was sentenced to 16 years in prison. Delaware County Prosecutor Eric Hoffman said this case was a prime example of the needless death of an infant due to unsafe sleep practices. He reminded the public, infants should always sleep alone, on their backs, in a safe crib. A mother who knew better, who was told over and over again, who continued to use drugs, who continued to co-sleep, and a baby who paid for it with her life. If you are watching this for that little girl, leave a comment. Subscribe to Cold Case Hour. Like this video. These stories need to be told. Case 6, Morgan Stapp, November 1st, 2024, Marion County. This next case is one of the most stomach-turning cases in this entire documentary. What this mother did to her own infant daughter is something that will make you physically sick. Morgan Stapp was 32 years old. She was a mother of 7 children. And on November 1st, 2024, she sent a message on Snapchat to an unidentified man that offered her 7-month-old daughter to be sexually assaulted for $400. The message included 3 photographs of her infant daughter. Snapchat flagged the message as potentially illegal and reported it directly to the FBI. 10 days later, FBI agents showed up at Stapp's home on Union Street on the near south side of Indianapolis to interview her. When agents confronted her, Stapp claimed her Snapchat account had been hacked. She said she no longer had access to it. She even said she had received an email telling her the account had been banned for online commercial sex transactions. None of it was true. Later that same month, during an interview with the Indiana Department of Child Services, Stapp admitted she had lied to the FBI. She told DCS, "I wanted the FBI to leave." Indianapolis Metropolitan Police were contacted by the FBI in December to assist with the investigation. A detective obtained a search warrant for Stapp's Snapchat account. What they found inside was appalling. During just 3 days in November, days after Stapp had spoken to the FBI and claimed she no longer had access to the account, her account had sent over 7,000 messages. 81 of those messages were identical. Each one asked the same question. "Would you be interested in buying my nudes so I can get baby diapers?" She had also added over 400 new accounts during that same period. IP address records confirmed that every single one of those messages was sent from an area near Stapp's home address. This was not a hack. This was not someone else. This was Morgan Stapp. Court documents were officially filed on July 1st, 2025, charging Stapp with attempted child sexual trafficking, a level 2 felony. A warrant was issued for her arrest. She was taken into custody on July 8th and booked into the Marion County Jail. During her initial court appearance, Stapp told the judge she was a stay-at-home mother who received government aid and did DoorDash and Instacart on the side. She noted that DCS had removed her children from her care in December of 2024 and had only just returned them to her in June of 2025, less than 2 months before her arrest. Her bond was set at $200,000. The investigation is ongoing. The charges are attempted child sexual trafficking. But the messages in that Snapchat account tell a story that goes beyond what was charged. A mother of 7, who offered her own 7-month-old infant to a stranger on the internet to be sexually assaulted for $400, and then lied to federal agents about it. This is not a case where someone snapped under pressure. This is not a case of mental illness that pushed someone over the edge in a moment of crisis. This was calculated. This was deliberate. This was a mother who looked at her baby and saw a way to make money. If this case made you angry, good. It should. Leave a comment below. Hit that subscribe button. Hit like. Cold Case Hour will keep telling these stories until every single one of these children is remembered. Case 7, Chelsea Crossland, March 24th, 2022, Jay County. The Jay County coroner called it a prolonged 74-day horror show. That is what 5-year-old Christian Crossland endured at the hands of his mother, Chelsea Crossland, before he died. On the night of March 24th, 2022, at approximately 11:30 at night, officers with the Portland Police Department responded to a home in the 600 block of Southwestern Avenue in Portland, Indiana, on a call about an unresponsive child. When they arrived, they found Chelsea Crossland. She told them her son had fallen down the stairs and lost consciousness. Investigators noted the home was unkempt and filthy. Christian was wearing only a diaper. He was emaciated, malnourished, and dehydrated. Paramedics found him very emaciated when they arrived. Christian Crossland was pronounced dead. Citing suspicious circumstances, Portland police immediately requested that the Indiana State Police take over the investigation. What they uncovered over the following weeks painted one of the most horrifying pictures of sustained child torture in Indiana history. Christian had been confined to his mother's bedroom. He was not allowed to interact with his 4 siblings. He was made to sleep on the closet floor. He was only allowed out of that room to use the bathroom. 2 of his siblings told investigators they never saw their mother give Christian food. They would try to sneak food to him behind her back. Crossland physically abused Christian using a piece of wood and a belt. She beat him. She choked him. She starved him deliberately and repeatedly for days at a time as punishment. And the reason she did all of this? Christian's siblings told investigators that their mother withheld food from him because he did not know his ABCs, because he could not count to 10, and because, in the words of his own siblings, their mother simply did not like him as much as the other children. Christian's father told police that Crossland had previously told him she wished the boy were dead. On the night Christian died, court documents say Crossland attempted to force-feed him shampoo. After the child was found unresponsive, Crossland did not immediately call for help. Instead, she talked about disposing of his body. Her own 10-year-old daughter testified in court that her mother asked her what she would do with Christian's body. Crossland got out a trash bag to put him in. A pediatrician who specializes in child abuse testified during the trial that Christian's injuries were indicative of child torture. She explained that child torture occurs when a caretaker inflicts at least 2 separate physical assaults on a child, or 1 prolonged assault resulting in distress, combined with at least 2 psychological abuse elements, including isolation or deprivation. Every single element was present in Christian's case. Investigators noted something else that made this case even more disturbing. Crossland's other children, her daughters, appeared healthy. They were well fed. There was no sign of malnutrition in any of them. Christian was the only child in that home who was being starved. In July of 2023, a Jay County jury convicted Chelsea Crossland of murder and neglect of a dependent resulting in death. The jury deliberated for barely more than an hour. At sentencing, Jay County Judge Brian Hutchinson accepted the jury's recommendation of life in prison without the possibility of parole. He looked at Crossland and noted she showed no sign of remorse. He told her there are people out there who hope she receives the same treatment that Christian received. He said he would rather the scales fall from her eyes and that she lived the remainder of her years in horror. Prosecutor Wes Skemanor said afterward it was probably the most difficult case he had ever been a part of. He told the jury that we treat animals better than Chelsea Crossland treated Christian. The Indiana Supreme Court unanimously affirmed her conviction in 2025, finding the evidence overwhelming. Christian Crossland spent 74 days being systematically starved, beaten, isolated, and tortured by his own mother. He died alone, in a filthy home, wearing only a diaper. Leave a comment for Christian. Like this video. Subscribe to Cold Case Hour. This boy's story deserves to be heard by everyone. Case 8. Jasmine White. This case could not be independently verified through court records or credible news sources during my research. I want to be transparent with you. Cold Case Hour does not present unverified information as fact. If you have information on this case, drop it in the comments below. We will investigate and we will follow up. That is our commitment to you and to the truth. We are moving directly to Case 9. Case 9, Dejaune Anderson, April 16, 2022, Washington County. On April 16, 2022, a man named Jeff Meredith was out hunting for mushrooms in a rural wooded area of Washington County in southern Indiana. About 80 feet off a roadway, he found a suitcase. It was a hard-sided Las Vegas branded suitcase, lying in the middle of the woods. He opened it. Inside was the body of a child. Meredith called 911 immediately. He later told investigators that when he first saw the boy, he felt like the child was telling him, "Help me. I need help." For 6 months, investigators had no idea who that child was. They combed through national registries for missing children. They ran every piece of evidence they could find. All they knew was how he died, an electrolyte imbalance caused by severe dehydration. The boy's body had been wrapped in trash bags before being placed in the suitcase. It was not until October of 2022 that police finally identified the child as 5-year-old Keiara Jordan. And it was not until that same month that charges were filed against 2 women, Dawn Coleman, who was already in custody, and Keiara's mother, 37-year-old Dejaune Anderson, of Atlanta, Georgia. Court documents revealed a deeply disturbing picture of what happened in the weeks and days before Keiara's body was found in those woods. Anderson had posted on social media approximately 1 month before Keiara's death that she was living with a demonic child. She contacted an exorcist. She believed a powerful demonic force lived inside her 5-year-old son. She posted about wanting to tell her story in a book or podcast about living with a demonic child. Dawn Coleman, who was staying with Anderson at a home in Louisville, Kentucky, told investigators what she witnessed. She walked into a bedroom and found Anderson on top of Keiara. The boy was face down on the mattress. His face was pressed into the bed. Coleman told investigators that when she saw them, it was already done. Coleman helped Anderson put Keiara's body into the suitcase. The 2 women then drove across the Ohio River from Kentucky into southern Indiana, into Washington County, where Coleman dumped the suitcase in the woods. Surveillance video from a property owner showed Anderson's car stopping on the road near where the suitcase was found. Police used technology to pull fingerprints from the trash bags Keiara's body was wrapped in. The prints matched Anderson. A felony murder arrest warrant was issued for Anderson in November of 2022. She fled. For nearly 2 years, she was on the run. She traveled to San Francisco, San Diego, Las Vegas, Houston, and other cities across the country. She was known to change her appearance, often wearing wigs or hair extensions. It was not until March 14, 2024 that U.S. Marshals finally caught up with her in Arcadia, California. She was attempting to board public transportation when she was arrested without incident. Dawn Coleman pleaded guilty to aiding, inducing, or causing murder, neglect of a dependent resulting in death, and obstruction of justice. She was sentenced to 30 years in prison, with 5 years suspended. As part of her plea deal, she agreed to testify against Anderson. Anderson's case has been marked by extraordinary courtroom behavior. She has claimed to be a sovereign citizen. She has claimed she is under NSA surveillance. She has claimed a detail from the Space Force has been following her every move. She has filed over 30 handwritten motions making bizarre accusations against the judge and court clerk. She attempted to represent herself. In late 2025, the case was moved from Indiana to Kentucky, where a Jefferson County grand jury indicted Anderson on murder, first-degree manslaughter, first-degree criminal abuse, and abuse of a corpse. Prosecutors determined that Keiara was actually killed in Kentucky, and moving the case there would provide the strongest legal foundation. Anderson is being held on $500,000 in bond. Her trial has not yet taken place. Keiara Jordan spent his last days alive being neglected by his mother, who believed he was possessed by demons. He was 5 years old. He died from dehydration. His body was stuffed in a suitcase and left in the woods like trash. A judge looked at the woman who helped dispose of Keiara's body and told her, "You packaged Keiara like trash." He was an innocent little boy who wanted to be loved. Subscribe to Cold Case Hour. Like this video. Leave a comment for Keiara. This little boy was found by a stranger in the woods. He deserved so much more than that. Case 10, Keiara Bickett, June 19, 2025, Marion County. This final case is different from the others in this documentary. This is not a case of a mother who set out to harm her child. This is a case of a mother whose negligence, whose failure to take basic precautions, resulted in the death of her 2-year-old son in front of his 8-year-old sister. On June 19, 2025, just before 3 in the afternoon, 28-year-old Keiara Bickett was driving through a CVS parking lot on East 46th Street, near Keystone Avenue on the north side of Indianapolis. She had her 2 children in the car. Her 2-year-old son, Javarius Bickett, and her 8-year-old daughter. Javarius had been sitting in his car seat in the back. At some point during the drive, he climbed out of his car seat without his seatbelt on. Bickett did not notice. Javarius moved to the front of the car. According to court documents, he climbed into his sister's lap in the front passenger seat. Bickett's purse was sitting on the front passenger seat. It was unzipped. Inside the purse was a loaded 9mm Glock Model 26 Gen 5 handgun. Bickett told police she carried the gun in her purse when she was out and that she did not have a holster for it. Javarius reached into the purse. He pulled out the gun. He fired. The bullet struck him in the head. His 8-year-old sister was right there. She heard the loud noise. She looked over and watched her brother fall to the floor. Bickett called 911. She picked up her son and held him. Javarius was rushed to Riley Hospital for Children. He did not survive. Bickett told police she did not see Javarius get the gun. She did not see it after the gunshot. She did not know how he got out of his car seat. Detectives recovered the Glock from the front driver's side floorboard with a fired cartridge in the chamber and a loaded magazine. There was a bullet strike on the front of the passenger side. A fired bullet was recovered from the passenger back seat. Bickett was charged with neglect of a dependent resulting in death, a level 1 felony. She was arrested on August 21, 2025. She appeared in court on September 5. A judge issued a no-contact order between Bickett and her surviving daughter, who was placed in the custody of her grandmother. Bickett's mother, Melissa Etheridge, went public defending her daughter. She called it an absolute accident. She said her daughter may have had negligence for not having the gun in a safe place, but that she would never harm her children. She said she loves her kids to death. Marion County Prosecutor Ryan Mears did not mince words. He said 2 children are gone, 2 families are shattered, and it never should have happened. He was referring to this case and a separate accidental shooting death from around the same time. He said, "Until our state requires basic licensing and training for gun owners, families will remain at risk. Safe storage and responsible gun ownership are not optional. It is a matter of life and death." If convicted, Bickett faces between 20 and 40 years in prison. The case is ongoing. This case ends this documentary differently than the others. This was not murder. This was not torture. This was not starvation or confinement. This was a loaded gun, sitting unzipped in a purse, within reach of a 2-year-old child. And a 2-year-old boy is dead because no one made sure that could not happen. Javarius Bickett will never turn 3. He will never go to school. He will never grow up. And his sister will carry the memory of what she saw that day for the rest of her life. If you have children in your home, if you have a firearm in your home, secure it. Lock it. Keep it out of reach. Every single time. No exceptions. Subscribe to Cold Case Hour. Like this video. Leave a comment. These 10 cases span the state of Indiana. They span years. They span every type of failure a parent can commit. Some of these mothers are serving life in prison. Some are still awaiting trial. But in every single case, a child paid the ultimate price. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. If you made it this far, you already know what to do. Like, comment, subscribe, hit that notification bell. Cold Case Hour will keep telling these stories. Because every child deserves to be remembered. Conclusion. 10 cases. 10 mothers. 10 betrayals that defy comprehension. These stories are difficult to hear and difficult to tell, but they must be told. They must be remembered. Not to sensationalize tragedy, but to honor the innocent lives lost and to remind ourselves of our collective responsibility to protect the most vulnerable among us. Each of these cases reveals failures. Failures of individuals, failures of systems, failures of communities. But they also reveal opportunities. Opportunities to do better. Opportunities to pay attention. Opportunities to speak up when something doesn't seem right. If you are struggling as a parent, please know that help is available. Reach out to family, friends, medical professionals, or organizations dedicated to family support. There is no shame in admitting you need help. There is only shame in suffering in silence while children pay the price. If you suspect a child is being abused or neglected, make the call. Don't assume someone else will. Don't convince yourself it's not your business. Be the voice for those who cannot speak for themselves. Thank you for watching this episode of Cold Case Hour. If these stories have affected you, please take a moment to process them. Talk to someone if you need to. And remember that while evil exists, so does good. For every case of abuse, there are countless foster parents, social workers, teachers, doctors, and community members working tirelessly to protect children. If you found this documentary informative, please like this video. Share your thoughts in the comments below, respectfully, as these are real cases involving real victims. And hit that subscribe button to join the Cold Case Hour community. We bring you verified true crime cases with the respect and depth they deserve. Until next time, stay vigilant, stay compassionate, and remember, every child deserves protection. Every child deserves love. Every child deserves life.